ethical boundaries that they might be pushing?
Yeah, I think you do, when you start to add a moral lens, now look at this, you know. Ask yourself, what about performing unannounced shopping audits? What about having hotlines, you know, anonymous hotlines where people can identify problems, where they see it? Internal monitoring, what, you know, you can do these things, and as Ryan is going to say, now you're implicitly and in some cases explicitly saying to people, by the way, this is not an invitation for you to do whatever you want, because we are watching. We do care, you know. So, I mean, this can be part of it, but I think the other part of it is really, there's a culture that arises, as we're going to see as we study cases down the road, that there's a culture that arises when people start to understand that they're doing something wrong. This is really the complaint with this, you know, horrific tragedy with Sandusky, who's now in jail for the rest of his life, at Penn State, where, you know, there was, you know, poor little boys were being molested. The question didn't just arise, what about this guy Sandusky? But the question arose, who's looking the other way when these things are going on? Who did step up? And in fact, some church leader was just convicted, not because he did any molesting, but because he did not take the necessary actions to prevent it. And this is really what we're saying here, is you become a person with shared responsibility for this sort of thing. I think a perfect example of this is steroids in sports. I think that's a perfect example. That, you know, for years and years and years, nobody wanted to ask the question, what the heck is going on? Anybody who is any student of the game of baseball, for instance, understands so well that steroids was clearly the reason why these records were being broken and shattered. I'll give you an example of this, those of you that don't follow baseball. In about the course of about 100 years of modern baseball, 80 or 90 years of modern baseball, only twice did somebody hit 60 home runs in a season. It happened about 80 or 70 years ago, 80 years ago, when somebody hit exactly 60. And then something like 40 years later, somebody hit 61 home runs. And nobody did it again for another 40 years. Until all of a sudden, not just one person is doing it, but several people are doing it. Sammy Sosa hit 60, sorry for those that are in the Dominican here, but Sammy Sosa hit 60 home runs 3 years in a row, more than 60 home runs. Not just 60 or 61, but 66 or something. Mark McGwire hit 70 home runs. Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs. How could this possibly be? This is impossible without something going on. But who knew this? Or better yet, who didn't want to know this? Who didn't want to know this? The baseball players didn't want to know this because they were benefiting from these astronomical salaries. Even those that weren't on steroids were benefiting from the astronomical salaries, which are because the superstars sort of become the benchmark. The players' union doesn't want to say anything. They're benefiting from these great salaries. The owners don't want to say anything because they benefit from the fans that come in and want to see this sort of thing. The sports writers benefit because now they got all these great stories to write. The fans benefit because they're having fun watching these superhuman feats. Everybody's having fun. It's a party. Problem is, the party ends. And then somebody says, oh, by the way, sir, here's your bill. And it's like, oh, no, I don't want to pay no bill. You see? So what really happened during this? Is this really a problem of Clemens and McGwire and Sosa and Barry Bonds and these guys? No. Of course it was them, but it was a shared responsibility of all these people that, looked the other way. I'll give you another example. Beech nut apple juice. Beechnut is owned by a foreign subsidiary, I think in Belgium or something at the time, maybe still. And they're producing apple juice for babies. And they go to suppliers to bid on apple juice, and these apple growers are giving them these bids. Beechnut said, no, you know, we're going with this other supplier because they're offering us this price. And these apple suppliers say, that's impossible. He's not giving you apple juice at that price. You should test it. Because that can't be apple juice, not at that price. And the CEO of Beechnut said, oh, well, whatever, we'll take it under advisement. But he makes sure nobody does test this stuff. And they sell this apple juice until finally somebody breaks into the warehouse, gets samples of this stuff, and demonstrates that it's sugar water with apple flavoring in it. It probably is not a whole lot different than apple juice. But anyhow, the point is it's not apple juice. It's sugar water that mothers are giving their babies when they think they're giving them apple juice. Now, and Beechnut, of course, said, oh, well, the supplier, you know, gave me apple juice. I didn't want it, you know, I asked him to give me apple juice, and he gave me sugar water. Go after him. No, you knew or should have known that was not apple juice. You had enough evidence. And the fact that, given the evidence you had, the fact that you didn't take it any further, tells us that we're talking about your character now. So you can blame it on somebody else, but your character gave that opportunity, gave it an opportunity to arise. So traditionally, we like to, you know, argue that business is amoral, that business is not in the business of being moral. We have churches and places like that for that. Business is about business. And leaders are ethically neutral. Business leaders are ethically neutral. But federal sentencing guidelines disagree. Now watch this. Watch this. Let's say there's a moral transgression in an organization. What is the fine going to be? Well, it could range from, you know, basically 1 to 3 million, or it could range from 10 to 30 million. Not based on what you did, but based on your character. Yes, federal sentencing guidelines require fines based on the business's character. So if you've got a character that is a good character where something bad happened, all right, the fine will be somewhere between 1 and 3 million. Because something bad happened, but at least you've demonstrated a good character. But if you demonstrate a bad character, then the fine is between 10 and 30 million. Because we're not just dealing with a bad thing that happened. We're dealing with a bad person who did a bad thing. And the same thing is happening every time a judge sentences someone. You know, 2 people commit the exact same crime. And the judge is going to say, well, I want to know more about this person's past. You say, well, this person has actually never done anything wrong. This is the very first offense. And this person is a very responsible person with a good job and, you know, a person who, you know, does nice things in the community and all that, you know, all that stuff. The other person, on the other hand, is a serial criminal, always getting in trouble, got a big rap sheet, you know, unemployed, on drugs, whatever. Well, now you think the judge is going to give the 2 people the same sentence? He won't, or she won't. Nor would I. Because in the one case, you're dealing with a good person who did something bad. In the other case, you're dealing with a bad person who did something bad. There's a difference. All right. I just want to finish, and then we'll take a break. I know I'm going a little bit further tonight, but